It'll take a little bit to catch up on your TV screens out there. But when I see it, I'll just start babbling again. I'll just start talking. But um, here is the launches that was done by the year, and you can see in 2001 or 2006 they had one. The next year they had one. They had 1 year here. In 2011 they didn't have any at all, and then in 2017, 18, and you see how they've really, last year they had 98. This year they've had, as of yesterday, they've had 97. So if they do one Sunday, it'll be tomorrow. That'll be the 98th, and they'll probably do another one or two, but by the end of the year. So they're doing quite a few launches here, trying to make something happen here. Yeah, this is like Elon. Instead of the moon, it's Mars. We lost the capability to go to the moon. I don't believe what they did with the astronauts. I don't believe what they showed us there was real. Do I believe we went to the moon? Oh, yeah. You better believe we did. There's a really strong case. There's a really strong case that we went to the moon, and you're going to find out if they will ever release the documents. And, if Trump will ever release some of this stuff. But, the thing is that our government and what's going on in the world, they don't want people to know. And I don't think Trump has it in him to do it. I don't think any president does. I don't think any president has it in them to, release the documents to let the world know what's really happening in the world. Do I believe those videos that they showed us to the moon? No, I don't believe that. Those are studio made. So obvious. I mean, it's not even a question anymore. But the behind the scenes, did we go? Oh yeah, we went. We went. There's all kinds of proof behind that. But the question is, we're never going to get to see it, because they'd even Neil Armstrong, and then it even said it's on the audios that you can hear, that talking about. He said, I bet those people never get out because they have domes up there, and then people living under the domes, and they were being watched and stuff like that. So there's a lot of proof that they went, but you can't use the videos as the case that they went. Let's go back over here to X. I want to look at some of this stuff here on here. So those of you who are new to the channel, I'm Fly Mackey. I'm your host of Smart Money Culture TV. And we talk here about getting credit. You can go down to smartmoneyculture.tv/credit. You can sign up. We have people who are in the insurance business, lawyers, doctors, people who are considered the smartest of the smart, so to speak. When I say that, we're all smart, but those kind of professions, and they don't teach about credit anywhere. And it doesn't matter where you are. Don't be embarrassed. There's nobody teaches. If you have no money and you're a broke dick mofo, for sure you should click that link. And if you own a house, you should click that link. If you ever have any dreams of doing something other than what you're doing, click that link right there. Anybody can get credit. Anybody. Our whole financial system here in the United States is set up for debt and credit. Debt and credit. So, now once you get the debt, it's amazing what you can do when you get debt, and then you learn how to get access to money. So we were just going over, and we went through our simulator on our software and on how to pay off the national debt. And through our simulator, we proved how you could pay off the debt easy in in about 5 years. And in 28 years, in about 20 years down the road, have about $28 trillion in a surplus, because this is where we were heading before they got us off the gold standard and started letting the central banks just print money, and through Congress. When you let Congress have control instead of instead of the banks, and then the businesses out there, instead of letting it go that way, Congress took control of it. That's why it's so corrupt. Most of those guys, um, I mean, most congressmen, including the ones that I know, are corrupt in my mind. And I mean, if they weren't, why wouldn't they balance the budget? If they weren't corrupt, then why does 85%, why does 85% of every politician that goes to Washington, D.C. become a millionaire? These are legitimate questions to ask. And nobody ever wants to go down that rabbit trail of why they all become millionaires. Not all of them. Some don't become millionaires until after they get out of politics. Then they get really stinking rich. I could name a few that just got out of politics this last 4 or 5 years. They're already 100 millionaires. Already 100 millionaires. You look what that Indian lady did. The one that used to be at the UN, Nikki Haley, broke. Their business is going out, fixing to claim bankruptcy, fixing to lose their house, and partnered up with the industrial complex, military complex, and now they're worth 100 million in like 2 years. How does that happen? Where you're broke and now you're worth 200 million, or excuse me, almost $100 million, or over 100. They're worth over 100 million now. I mean, how does that happen? Because they got on the boards of some of these companies and she sold her services. Anyway, I'm not against any of these people, but I think it's important that everyone knows this is really what it is. And once you understand, what it is, then you know what you have to play with. But until then, you don't. I mean, we could pay off our debts, our national debts, in 5 years. One president, and then another one, unless it's a back-to-back term. If it's a back-to-back term, then one president could kill our entire debt. It's not that hard. They do it through velocity banking and through just why all the billionaires take their money, they become their own bankers. The same way that they do. So the banks aren't really for the billionaires and the trillionaires. The banks are for us broke dick mofos, the ones that they take advantage of, stupid ones. And when I say stupid, where a lot of us are uneducated because we're not willing to go out and do the research. We think we're willing to be followers, 85% of us. It's a proven statistic that we're in a formula, we're in a maze, we're in an experiment that they've been working on for hundreds and hundreds of years. They've been working on it for thousands of years, and they already know the formula to keep us, in the maze and in the experiment. And they just reinvent the experiments. That's all. We're coming up on that every couple of 100 years. You wonder why the great empires we're in the information age now. So now we're starting to find out that there were great empires out there that, they never talk about, and that there's probably other countries and continents now that we don't know about. They're there. We're not allowed to go there. Like, what's on the other side of the Antarctics? No, we're not allowed to go there. No one is. So If you're not allowed to go there, then it makes you wonder what's there. Well, we know it's there because the maps of old that were around for thousands of years tells us what is there. So anyway, I'm not gonna get into that, but we can do some shows on that. Pretty interesting. It has a lot to do with money and credit and stuff like that. But most of us, we don't never learn about credit because we don't want to. We want to the American dream over here, which is get a home, which is one of the 2 or 3 things that helps make you a millionaire. Anybody, we have a financial system where anybody can get wealthy here in America. Anybody. And a lot of folks get into it and then they make mistakes because they think they're smarter than the people who came before them and they don't want to follow the strategies. And some people are smarter. I'm working with some people now who didn't deserve to get what they got. You know, they didn't deserve to get ahead because they didn't work for it. They paid for it, but they didn't work for it. And once they got into it, they wouldn't follow directions. Happens all the time. I've done it myself. But the wealthiest people in the world, they are their own bankers. They borrow from themselves. They do borrow from the banks. They borrow from the banks too. But what they own for them to get wealthy, for their families to last hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, they borrow from themselves, not from the banks. The businesses, their businesses, they borrow from the banks. But their personal life and how they create generational wealth to last, most billionaires aren't going to be around after they die. It's already proven statistics that most of them within just a number of years are broke. The families, the kids, whoever inherits it, you know, like 10 years or less, you know, all that money goes away. There's no plan to keep for hundreds and, you know, generations. They don't set it up that way. Now, I know a family who became wealthy. They, you know, 100 million, a few $100 million. And he was asking, you know, they were asking as they're new, you know, with the wealthier you get, your circle changes, right? It just does because, you know, you're trying to keep it and stuff like that. And what do you do with all that money, etc. But as he starts to investigate, he was introduced to a company, and we won't put that company out there now because they're not out for public. But he was introduced to a company who came to him and says, we will show you how when you're gone for the next 100 years, because we'll be gone, but their company's been around for a few hundred years. And okay, so there's several companies that have been around for several hundred years, and their sole job is to consult with families who want to be around for several hundred years. And there's a whole strategic game plans of where the kids will go to school, how they'll get trained, what kind of businesses will they go in, who they will marry, what families they will network with, what families they will marry and intermarry and stuff like that. And that's how these families make it for hundreds and hundreds of years. And we could put the numbers to it, but, you know, let's just say there's somewhere around 500 families that have been around for several hundred years. Okay. And out of that several hundred families, there's a group of those who run the world. And that is, you know, there's a hierarchy to those families that have been around for a long time. And, you know, the hierarchy runs the world. The United States don't run the world. The presidents don't run the world. You know, the military complex doesn't run the world. A lot of it is contributed to how the world gets run, but there's, you know, a few families that run the world, and it all trickles down from there. And it's pretty cool. I mean, you know, the general idea behind these families is they're not going to let you know what they're doing. And that's why they've been around for hundreds and hundreds, and some of them for a few thousand years, because, you know, they got a game plan, and then they follow the game plan. And whether the kids want to or not, they continue on, but that's how they continue on. It's family first. So, I don't know. It's like, where do these guys go who they get themselves in trouble, or the politicians or something like that? They look like them, but they're not really them, because they go on to these other lands and these other places where, you know, we're not allowed to go. So anyway, it's going to be exciting to see what happens. And we're in the information age now, where lots of things are coming out. You know, whether we want to believe them or not has nothing to do with our day-to-day lives, because most of us aren't going to be generational. The majority of us, when we die, whatever we have is going to die with us, or whatever we give away. And like, my kids are getting nothing because they haven't worked for it. They don't, just not going to, they wouldn't know what to do with it. And I'm guessing they would. But I'm just, for the sake of the conversation today, you can't just give what you make to somebody who's not in business, who doesn't care. So that's why this conversation that I'm having with you guys out there, and thank you for letting me have the conversation with you. That's why, most people are just followers, and that's okay if that's what you want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're going to come and go, and nobody's going to remember us. And whatever we make is going to come and go. And if we decide to give it away to somebody, when we pass away, then that'll be gone in a short period of time. So, what's the reason for all that we do? And I can say this, that the United States, great experiment, greatest country that we know. And I'm not saying it's the greatest country that's ever been, because there's some empires around that we don't have privileged information about, because they won't, the powers at be won't let us look at that information. Okay. So but we have a great financial system here that's set up for everyone to get wealthy. Everyone that definitely comes out of the U.S. should be wealthy. Everyone that comes out of the U.S. should definitely be wealthy, because we have a system that's created on debt. Now, it doesn't have to be created on debt. It could be created on like the gold standard, or when you do velocity banking, and when you become your own banker. If everyone was their own banker, our world would totally be changed. There'd be very few people actually working for a salary, because we'd be doing things more like contracting, and then we'd be inventing things, and we'd be contributing in a whole different way than what we're contributing to now. We'd be contributing to, like what Elon Musk says, for the next world, for us to go to the next world, and for us to travel, and electricity and all that stuff. They have us metered in. Tesla, he had invented all kinds of things, like electricity should be free. Like, I mean, it's not, but the closest thing you get to freedom and electricity is solar. And that's not completely free unless you're off the grid. But either way, I'm not against anything. I'm just saying there's a lot of ways to get wealthy here. And we have a financial system here in the United States that allows us to get to that next level. So if you own a house, that's one of the 2 or 3 steps that you need to becoming a millionaire. And it's easy to say about a millionaire now. I mean, anybody can be a millionaire. It doesn't take much. All you have to do is have a house that's worth $600,000 and an income worth a couple of $100,000, and your wife has one for a couple of $100,000, and you have an extra house here and an extra house there. Bam, you're a millionaire. Okay, it doesn't take much. You could have 3 houses worth $400,000. You're a millionaire. 1.2. Okay, it doesn't take hardly anything to get to become a millionaire anymore. The question is, what do you do with it, and how do you maintain it? And anybody with any real money is going to use what's called velocity banking, and they're going to become their own bankers. But velocity banking is where it starts. That's the whole key behind everything. Let's take a look a little bit. Let's look at some more news. I'm just kind of messing around. It's Saturday evening. There's Kennedy going to the moon, he says. Okay, let's get out of the comment section here. Yeah. Okay, not interested. There's no doubt Palestinians are Arab Muslims that are, wanting to kill Jews. There's no doubt about it. And they use their children as shields, their children and wives and old people. They use them to as shields as they fight. They're the biggest cowards in the world. They're not the biggest, but they've taken that playbook from other people who are cowards. People who do that are cowards. They're cowards. I'm not for them, not one bit. They grow their kids to hate America and to hate the Jews, but the Jews specifically. They grow their kids from babies. Kids aren't born that way, but they raise them that way. And they grow up hating Jews. Their number one thing is to kill them like a cockroach. That's their goal. Let's look at a little bit more news here.
That is bigger than what is the Tesla van? This is we're going to make this, and it's going to look like that. Oh my gosh! Of course they're going to make this. And you see this coming toward you. That's mistake. This can carry up to 20 people and can also transport goods. So you can configure it for goods transport within a city or... Elon!
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's the device that's going to catch it when it comes back. That's our boy right there. You don't like it, don't do business with us. I mean, I don't care. Rogan's going to have Trump on. He's asking now. This is his official site. Do you want to see Trump? Of course. You know what that means. Of course he's going to get him on. He's not going to let everyone else do it and him not get it. You know how much money he's going to make by having Trump on there? Whew. Here's the smart guy right here.
Enemies. I have tried for a long time to see how to make national defense a private enterprise, and I have never succeeded. It's easy to see how to privatize schooling, but I don't know how to privatize national defense. A section function of government, and one which it performs very, very badly, is to protect the individual citizen against abuse and coercion by other citizens, to keep you from being hit over the head, mugged on the street, your house broken into, and so on. And I believe that the government performs that function very ineffectively because it's doing so many things it has no business doing. The third function of government, a very important function, is to define the rules of the game we play. What's private property? If an airplane flies 10,000 feet over your house, is he violating your private property? If he flies 10 feet over your house, is he violating your private property? There's nothing natural about where the line should be drawn. So we have to have some mechanism for making the rules about that, and that is an appropriate government function. And fourth, it's appropriate for government to provide a mechanism for adjudicating disputes about the meaning of those rules, a judicial system. Those are the four essential functions of government, in my opinion, and those are the only functions that are essential. There may be some other areas in which, if you started with nothing more than that, government might conceivably do more good than harm. But from where you are now, if you could only move back in that direction, it would be marvelous.
That was interesting. Let's watch this one more time.
I'm not an anarchist. I believe in a government, but a limited government. And the government should be limited, in my opinion, to very simple functions. Number one, to defending the country against foreign enemies. I have tried for a long time to see how to make national defense a private enterprise, and I have never succeeded. It's easy to see how to privatize schooling, but I don't know how to privatize national defense. A second function of government, and one which it performs very, very badly, is to protect the individual citizen against abuse and coercion by other citizens, to keep you from being hit over the head, mugged on the street, your house broken into, and so on. And I believe that the government performs that function very ineffectively because it's doing so many things it has no business doing. The third function of government, a very important function, is to define the rules of the game we play. What's private property? If an airplane flies 10,000 feet over your house, is he violating your private property?
Yes.
If he flies 10 feet over your house, is he violating your private property?
Yes.
There's nothing natural about where the line should be drawn.
That's right.
So we have to have some mechanism for making the rules about that, and that is an appropriate government function.
Right.
And fourth, it's appropriate for government to provide a mechanism for adjudicating disputes about the meaning of those rules, a judicial system. Those are the four essential functions of government, in my opinion, and those are the only functions that are essential. There may be some other areas in which, if you started with nothing more than that, government might conceivably do more good than harm. But from where you are now, if you could only move back in that direction, it would be marvelous.
That was really good. Because nobody wants to listen to your crap. You're old, just like I'm old, like nobody wants us. I mean, it takes a lot to work with somebody when you get, over 40, because, we have our ways and we've already been used up. She's probably been used up. I've been used up. I understand more than you, bitch. If you can't teach it, how can you duplicate yourself, dumbass? You know how stupid that statement was? You won't understand it. You think you're going to work out in the field forever without teaching somebody? You're not very smart. Good luck. Interesting stuff. Ooh. Where'd those people go that were outside? I don't want to see that again. Interesting. Yeah, it's all illegal. You shouldn't be doing it. It's immoral. You can't run a legitimate business doing shenanigans. In my opinion, you won't never have a business doing business that way. Yes. I want American citizens paying me, not illegals who have a home that don't deserve to have a home and are getting money illegally to get all kinds of things that they shouldn't have. That's my opinion. I don't know these people. Just what you told me. Good luck. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Look what this guy does. He just speeds up like 100 miles an hour. Good luck with that. I love that. I guess they won't be stealing again. Look at this. This is amazing. Because that's all they know from the countries they come from. All they know is violence. And when they get a little something, they fight to keep it. They don't know any better. They're taught that way. Look at them cops. They're so fat. They're not going to catch nobody. Look at him. These two cops, look how fat they are. They're not catching anybody. Now, that guy might catch him in the car. But these guys, look, you got to hand it to them, though. They didn't give up. Why? Who's that? Brittany? There's Brittany. Britney Spears, one of my favorites. Oh. Getting it taken off. That's got to be painful. Looks like that's a leg. That's a kneecap. All right, and there you go. Interesting stuff. Hi, Brittany. Yes. A hair, I'm guessing.
I was a little off on that one. See if I can get enough force in here. Do it.
Okay, Alex.
I was a little off on that one. See if I
And those things live to be hundreds of years old. Yeah, she's all tooted up. Yeah, totally tooted up.
Diddy party stories, they're our favorite genre of anecdote if you have one, yeah.
Wow, okay, I've got a lot I can't tell. So, I can't tell that one either. I mean, I'm like actually cycling through them. Diddy party stories, man. That was like some weird memory lane. Ugh.
Diddy party.
And I'm Lois Tomey. So what does this plane, what is it doing? A Wink News anchor Annette Montgomery joins us in the studio. And Annette, what did you learn?
Well, Chris and Lois, I learned who it's not after reaching out to everyone from the city of Cape Coral to the county to the Florida Division of Emergency Management to the South Florida Water District and Port Authority. Now, these low-flying planes with green lasers does not belong to them. One neighbor got so fed up, she purchased a flight radar to help narrow down the search for the owner.
It's not something you see every day.
Oh, geez, it was, I mean, it went back and forth. At least, I would say 40 minutes to an hour.
But for people living in Cape Coral, they've been seeing it a lot this week.
It was really late at night. It was kind of around midnight. It was around midnight. And I was actually in my car. I was just getting home, and I saw it going back and forth with a laser beam, and it scanned over me multiple times.
Just so you know, America. Just so you know.
The whole area, every square
just so you know. That's their goal.
That low-flying plane was in Casey Sutton's neighborhood for hours Sunday night.
That's the goal of the elite,
Philip Bertolio
of the
saw
trillionaires
the same day,
of the world,
but
the Bill Gates, to eliminate us.
Super Bowl game.
Their goal is to make sure that we're completely photographed. They know exactly about what's in our yards, what our houses look like, what our yards look like, who comes in, who comes out, who drives there, who drives away. They want to know everything, and they're going to know everything.
Neighbors saw a sight
because
like this
their goal is to eliminate
90%
of the
Casey
world.
decided to track down
you don't have
who
to
the plane
take my word for it. This is not conspiracy. Go listen to the last World Economic Summit and what
kind of plane
these
it was and what type of plane
big companies and are
private owner.
When you put the information Casey provided into the
listen
FAA
to Bill Gates,
website,
listen to
It
Carl
comes back with
Schwab
this
and those guys.
information saying it's
Their
registered to
own
Randigo
speeches where
LLC,
their goal is
but
to
it's unclear who or
depopulate the
what
world by
they're doing.
90%.
We just
What
want to
does
know
that
what's going
mean?
on.
Depopulate
Why we're
the
getting
world.
scanned.
And Bill
I also
Gates
reached out to
talked
the
about it.
U.S. Geological Survey
one of
as
the
they
big
are
goals
doing
is to
some
do it
mapping
through
and data collection
vaccination.
involving
They're
low-flying
telling
planes
us
right now.
you have to get
But they told me not
vaccinated so we
only do
can
their
kill
planes
you.
fly during the day,
And
they
we're
also
so
don't use
stupid.
green lasers. I'm still waiting to hear back from
You don't need to hear
the
back.
NOAA. I did speak with a representative.
Stupid idiot. This is a van that he just showed. I want to buy one of those.
Fuck you, fascist! You're all fucking pieces of shit. Fuck all. Head back. Head back. This is law and order.
Wow. Goes to shoot a little dog and shoots her kid instead. How stupid are people? These are white people too. Hillbilly neighbors. They're white too. Look at them. Stupid. Shoot the kid. They shot the kid trying to shoot a little dog. They must really hate their neighbors. Shot their kid instead. What a dummy. Ooh. How and why? I mean, I understand losing weight, but man, that's looks awful. I'm guessing it's supposed to look good, but you know, that's a shame. But it happens. Starving to death too. Look at it. It's hungry. Anybody can see that. It's hungry. Wow. What is wrong with these people? Huh, and he still survived. Fucking, these guys are idiots. All these men here, what a bunch of idiots. I'm on the cat side. I'm for the cat. I don't want to see that no more. The fact is they are all men. Okay. Yeah, I don't think so. No, thank you. All money laundering, all that money going to Ukraine. Yeah, I want Ukraine to lose. Actually, just want them to all stop dying. And there we are again, and we are back. And hello, Texas. Don't turn that dial. This is the Fly Mackey Show. I'm your host, Fly Mackey. Good to see you tonight, and we're on again for another hour here this evening, Saturday evening, here in the great state of Texas. Hello, Corpus Christi, Houston, College Station, Beaumont, Texas, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Tallahassee, Florida. And don't forget the great state of Arizona is watching tonight. We have several other states watching too. Glad you're on board. Yeah, that's awesome. Just looking at a little news here on Twitter.
Yeah. So many years after coming to the United States, I found when looking at her background is the first time she registered to vote was at age 29. So
really?
Yeah. So many years after coming to the United States, I found when looking at her background is the first time she registered.
Interesting. Don't know what it is. Probably the industrial military complex, I'm guessing. Who knows? It's like they put these things out here, but don't say what it is. And then they want you to go into their feed and look at it. Let's see what it looks like. The NASA data center in Utah, specifically for, so they're saying this is the NSA, and this is their data center. All they do is spy on us. Well, we know that. I don't know if this is the place, but that's what they're saying it is. And of course, they're spying on us. They've been spying on us for a while. There's Brittany again. So they decided to buy the roof cash. Yeah, vote Trump. See, ladies, don't be like this. Look at this. Bam. She punched him, so he knocks her out. And then she calls the police and said that he's the one that assaulted her. They come to try to arrest him, but if he wouldn't have had this on film, geez, could you imagine living with something like that? That's not the way nature's supposed to work. I think this guy's a jerk for doing that. No, I don't loan money to illegal aliens. Ever. This guy's a moron right here. Boston Smalls. Yeah. Us MAGA people aren't complaining about these workers, complaining about the guys coming across the border illegally who aren't working. They don't plan on working. These guys here hate illegal aliens. These folks here hate those other folks. Uneducated morons. Period. That's what people do to keep them in slavery. I'm Mexican. I'm not against them. I'm against the kind of people who come here and don't become Americans. And then they listen to other dumb people like you who are saying they don't care about the system. Just get whatever is yours and don't go through the proper channels. You have to learn how to go through the proper channels. It's easier that way. Anyway, you still walked away with no contract. And you have one sale on the board for $8,731. I would try a new strategy if I was you. Lock them in. Get the sale. You got rent to pay. I have $66,050 on the board. No matter what happens, you'll never get paid if you don't get them to sign the contract. And you can't tell me after 30 years they don't have credit cards or they don't have some kind of credit with the bank. Something's not right about what they're telling you. Yeah, hard workers. He tripped him up. Bam. And then there comes the popo. Woo. He, he's looking back at that guy going, "You dirty dog." Okay, let's see. Did he freak off attendee suggested that children dressed up like Juku dolls with lipstick and that's getting a little weird. That guy did not want to let go of that girl. I think he finally let go of her. Wow. I mean, the stuff this world, what is up with this world? What is up with this world? Well, we got a crazy world we're living in, guys. Crazy. Bam. And now his fat girlfriend's going to get out. Have you ever seen the movie Dumb and Dumber? Miscalculation. Ouch. That looked like that hurt. No, I don't want to see that. That's you and Alex on a job site. I know that made you laugh. Let's watch this one more time. Wow.
Let dog go.
At this point, they did not need to let the dog go. That's a coward police doing that. Those police are cowards.
This is your last chance. Do not give up now. The police officer.
Do you know how many police canines get killed or hurt because the officers are too coward to jump in there? They're cowards. I don't believe this at all. I don't believe it. It's all staged.
One more award, which is this award, which is 7, which is a record. I would take off my glasses. Now, I don't want to take them off, really, but... Okay, well, Katharine Hepburn, who is a dear friend of mine, she told me I should, and I'm doing it for her, okay? And the girls in the back. Um,
Ouch. That's the girls beating him up. I know tonight's been a different kind of broadcast, guys and gals, but I just want to watch some news tonight. What happened?
Deixa que aí, ó, vai roubar mais não, né, Carreirinha? Dá o jeito, né, Carreirinha? Se fizer, ó. Acabou. Deixa que
Ouch. Oh, this is why they did that. That's funny. Yeah, you women want equal rights over there in the Middle East. This is what you get. Just stop and beat her. You don't have to. We don't need whistleblowers coming forward. Like, we know what's going on with the border. Any moron who took a video down there knows what's going on. This is a big snake trying to eat the dog. Look at the dog. He's just sitting there waiting to get loose. These kids are like, you're not getting our dog. They love you, dog. Hang tight. Ooh. Just don't listen to the language. She's like, okay, come on. You want to go outside? Let's go. She's teaching her kids. This lady is teaching her kids how to act in public. Single mother, I guarantee it. No, I don't want to see this one. Yeah, that's an old video there. All right, I think I've seen enough. I think I've seen enough. Let's look at Bitcoin. What's going on right now? Trading right now at $62,799 and 62,811 and 19 cents as we speak. There's Miss Amber and Capone. Hi, baby. I know. Go back to sleep. Should we do a little velocity banking tonight? So basically, I'm just doing a podcast, going over some old news and stuff like that. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for everything. I want to use this other camera. Yes, there we are. We're using a different camera now. Different angle. So we did put into our simulator and our software what it would take to pay off the national debt. And we could pay it off if we wanted to. I think Trump, I think that it would take a president that, and it's not going to be him. He's going to, I think, bring our country back to law and order and bring it back to what it was supposed to be. But it's the president that comes after him. He's got 3-4 years. That's it. It's the president after him and the president after that one. Because it's going to take a generation, which is 25 years, for this to change. You have to know this. If you've studied the communists and the Marxists and how they work and how they talked about it, they've written books about this stuff and told it to us, to our faces. It takes a generation. Well, once you have the generation, and Ronald Reagan talked about it, takes about a generation, and then that second generation, they have you. And if they can make it through that second generation, which is about 50 years total, 25 years a generation, then it changes the whole trajectory, and everything that you thought is gone, because they rewrite the history books, which is what they're doing now, trying to rewrite the history books as they try to depopulate our country, or our world, excuse me. And most of you are better off, going somewhere else anyway, because you don't even care to live here. I'm just saying, we lived to be in this maze of debt and taxation, and it's okay, and abortion and kill babies, and you name it. Let illegals come in, the murderers and the pedophiles. So I don't think Trump, and I'm voting for Trump, but I don't think he has what it takes to eliminate our debt, because it's going to take somebody, a visionary. And I think he's a great guy. I mean, I'm for him. I'm on his side. Okay. But I don't think he has what it takes to take us out of that. And nobody does. I've never heard anybody ever give a solution to paying off the debt. I gave one, but now you know why my social media is dead. They won't let my views get out. I had to buy a TV network in order for my views to get out, because they won't let our views to get out. I didn't make this stuff up, but I'm willing to be the messenger. And when you learn how to do velocity banking and become your own banker, just like all the billionaires and these families that have been around for hundreds of years, generation after generation, hundreds of years, they've learned how to keep that wealth And it's done through becoming their own banker and not relying on the economy. You don't have to rely on the economy when you're your own banker. You don't care whether it's down or up or in between because it's your money. And when you go to get something, as long as you're participating out there, which is what you want to do, you want to participate. So when you borrow from yourselves instead of the banks and you're out participating and you don't have the pressure of paying back the banks, you only have to pay back yourself. And as long as you continue to participate, then you're going to get wealthy. And click that link, smartmoneyculture.tv/credit. Fill out one of those forms. We'll help you get it. It's easy. 1,500 down and 6,000 on the back, 6% on the back end, just like the insurances pays. It's insane. There's no reason why you can't get ahead in this world. I'm going to teach a young couple, a 28-year-old, her husband who's 30. He's 2 years older than her, and or 20. She's 27. He's 29. And we're fixing to teach them velocity banking. It's going to be the coolest thing in the world. Anyway, you take the national debt, and they could pay off the debt with a line of credit that they could give themselves. They give themselves a line of credit and pay it off. Done. And now they owe themselves. But we bring in about 2023, $4.8 trillion. 4.48 trillion. So 4,480 billion. Now, the debt, the amount of money that we spent in credit, okay, spending it out there was about $6 billion, $6.11 trillion. Now, the minimum payment on our 35 trillion 690 billion is 1 trillion it is 1,165,500,000,000 a year is our minimum payment on that 35 trillion. And they say that's not it's sustainable. They bring in 4 trillion. Of course, they bring in 4 trillion. They can pay 1 trillion. It's sustainable as long as we have those the trillions or more than the minimum payment. Of course, it's sustainable. It's all a lie. Unless you put this down on paper and you see it in front of you, you're never going to believe it. You want to see this? Come on, man. Do I got to do everything? Well, you got me excited now. I thought I was going to get away without doing any business tonight. Doesn't look like it. Let's do it. And here we go. I'm going to go to the other camera. All right. So here is if you want to look here. So let's take a look at this. That's a little weird. Let's take a look at this, okay? Hi, Capone. So our debt is 35,690 billion. We bring in the United States about 448 trillion dollars, 4,480 billion a year. Now, every year that increases about 7%, and I'll go through that here in just a second. Matter of fact, we've got 17 minutes. Let's look at Bitcoin for a minute. I'll be back. Hi, Capone. All right, we're back. Let me go over this with you, okay? So our revenue every year increases about 7%, okay? Which is about 300 billion in this case right here. Okay, and and our yearly spend is 6.6 trillion 111 billion dollars. That's that. So we're over budget because we only bring in 448 trillion. We brought in 4,480 billion. We spent 6 trillion. So we're $2 trillion over budget, or we're $1.5 trillion over budget. Okay. Our yearly debt on that 35 trillion is 1,165,500,000,000 at 3.3%, 3.33%. Okay. Now, if you was to use our velocity banking strategy and just pay out this, let's say this got a line of credit, which they can because they own it all, and paid off the debt. Bam, they could do it today if they wanted to. Paid off that $35 trillion. And now they owe the government. Oh, do you think they'd be fiscally responsible if they, why is that like that? Oh. Do you think they would be responsible if they had to pay themselves back? Otherwise, they couldn't use their credit? Of course they would. So 1,165,500,000,000 is included in that $6 trillion. So if you eliminate that minimum monthly payment or minimum yearly payment to that 35 trillion by paying the banks off, so you no longer owe them, the Federal Reserve, now you owe yourself. That minimum payment goes away because you're going to take that entire 4 trillion and you're going to put that into your line of credit. And then you're going to borrow at this rate right here, which is 5,645,500,000,000. Using this scenario where we would take the money that we have and that revenue, and before we paid a dime of it, we would put it into our banking system that we own, that the government would own. Okay, not the Federal Reserves, not the central banks, not those guys, not private, their own. This is how you take this government to the next level, but there's not a president out there. They're too coward to do this or too stupid. They're either too coward or too stupid. It's okay. Hey, I'm not suicidal. But when you borrow from yourself, from your own banking system, which they've been doing we know insurance has been around for thousands of years. The histories tell us that. The histories of the banking systems tell us that. They've been doing that since 1792. We know that for sure, since those 6 brokers got together and started the stock market. Okay, so if they was to borrow in every whole life insurance policy, I mean, these companies have been paying out for hundreds of years. Not only do they pay a dividend, but they also pay out compounded interest on top of what you have in there off your death benefits. But either way, 7% increase in that 4.48 trillion a year. So we'll show how that works. 6% compounded interest. We're not even talking about the dividends. All we're talking about now is the interest. There's a whole component here that I'm leaving out for the sake of, I don't know why I left it out, but I did. And I'm going to do a 20-year scenario here. Okay? Paid against that 35 trillion that they no longer owe the central banks or the Federal Reserve, really, the Federal Reserve. They don't owe them. But now they're going to pay themselves back. And this is a little bit of how that works. So you have 4,480,000,000,000 plus 6% interest 1 year on this, which is goes up about $300 billion. You see that? Not quite. Goes up to 4,748,000,000,000 from 4,480,000,000. So it misses it just a little bit. No, it goes over that, right? Yeah, it goes over about 300. Let me see what that is. Hold on a second. 748 minus 480 is 8, 12. Oh, that's 14. 68. That makes that a 6. $268 billion. So going up, you're getting paid 6%. Getting paid 6%. And this is assuming that we're putting nothing in yet. but the amount that we brought in revenue at 6%, it goes up $268 billion to $4,748 billion. Okay, now plus that's just the interest. Plus that $4,480 billion goes up 7% increased revenue per year. Okay, which okay, and so you're going to take that next year. This is year number 2. This is year 1. This is year 2. That $4,793 billion is going to go. You're going to make that deposit, which now makes this account $9,541,800 million. You're going to get paid 6% interest. This is the simplest way. I could break it down daily, weekly, monthly, but for the sake of just showing you the model here, this is a crude way of showing it to you, but this is how it works. In the second year, you're going to put in that $4 trillion that went up 7%, which is now $4,793 billion. You're going to deposit that into that account. We just went up. You got paid 6% on it, so now it's $4,748 billion. You add that and that together, gives you $9,541,800 million. You're going to get paid 6% interest on that, which is going to take that to $10,114,300 million. Okay. Now the whole time you're borrowing. By the way, the whole time you're borrowing back. Every year $5,645,500 million. That's what you're going to start out with the first year, borrowing out of this account. Okay, you're borrowing this amount, but you're putting this much back in, and over the period of 5 years, it's going to take 5 years to pay this off. In 5 years, you'll have the debt completely paid for, because this is a simple scenario. Okay, it gets more complicated. So I could draw it out, and the other scenario is 11 years. So I have this calculated out for 5 years, 9 years, and 11 years. Okay, I'm using the 5-year strategy here, but in 5 years doing this strategy here, okay, you have this paid off in 5 years, paying yourself back, the federal government, instead of paying the Federal Reserve that $1 trillion. Using the velocity banking strategy, they will pay this thing off in 5 years. In 20 years, they'll have $28 trillion. $28 trillion in the account. And in 30 years, they'll have $921 trillion. $921 trillion in that account in 30 years. This is what it would have looked like. This is what our government would have looked like if we wouldn't have got off the gold standard, if we would have stopped using our communist strategies, because that's what they did, if we would have stopped doing money laundering and stealing and raping from the American government people. Matter of fact, we didn't win the war, the revolution that we were fighting. We literally, the English made a treaty with us because they were winning. We weren't winning; they were winning. We didn't win this. They did a truce. There was a treaty. Why? Because it would make them look like the good guys, and it gave us the full authority to go slaughter all the Native Americans. to tax us, put a new tax system in. So instead of it coming from the King of England, it came from us. We set a whole system up here to tax us, to get us. It didn't start out that way, but that's how it developed. And human nature. When you have this kind of money coming in, I mean, unlimited amounts of money, they didn't know what to do with it all. Of course they did. There was a major game plan here. There was a lot of good people. But this is the scenario when you're paying yourself back instead of paying the banks, using this strategy right here. You follow this down the rabbit trail. You put in these calculations here. You go down the rabbit trail. And this is what it is. It's amazing how this moves so fast in the other direction. Imagine paying off our debt, national debt, in 5 years or up to 11. I have it modeled out 3 different ways. Have it debt completely paid for, and us in the plus $28 trillion in the next 20 years, and the next 30 years, $900 trillion ahead. At this point right here, now we're getting into the Elon Musk type ideas where his idea is we've got to stop, kind of doing this thing where we're fighting and trying to kill each other, and all the disease from the food. They're killing us with the food on purpose. There shouldn't be any diseases. All the diseases are gone. These are diseases that they make in labs and put on us. And have you ever wondered how they know that flu season is coming? How do they know flu season? Because they spray us. They put it on us. We found that out when COVID hit, because COVID came from a lab. You're going to find out that AIDS came from a lab. They put it on us. All these diseases are put on us. They're killing us with the food. They poison our water and then expect us to pay to clean it. What does this have to do with banking? Because when you become your own banker, then you don't care what's happening. I mean, you care, but you're not affected. Because when you want something, you borrow your own money from you. You have a whole collateral. What's your collateral? Your death benefits are your collateral, because you're paying for that. So the insurance companies guarantee. Here's what's crazy. You think you're living the American dream to work and get a pension. The average person that's on a pension, they get something like a teacher or a fireman or a federal or state employee, or anybody that worked at a company that's getting paid from that pension. Guess what the average length of that pension is? It's 8 years, 8.1 years. Who wins? You work your whole life, you put all this money into it to live